Tonight, leave them laughing. The Opera House filled with love for the legendary Barry Humphries. It was the perfect farewell. An explosive text revealed as Lisa Wilkinson wraps up her evidence at the Bruce Lerman defamation trial. Firebugs blamed for wiping out properties in the Hunter Valley. A new clue in the father-son executions that ignited Sydney's underworld bloodbath. Home for Christmas after 3 months at sea, and what a gift it is. And Pakistan off to a nervy start, chasing Australia's huge first innings total.
This is 7 News with Angela Cox.
Good evening. He was wonderfully mischievous, sometimes controversial, but always entertaining. Barry Humphries was remembered at a state memorial at the Opera House today as a cultural icon, a genius, pure magic. Even King Charles paid tribute to our very own Crown Prince of Comedy.
For a man who embodied multiple characters, it was hard to imagine one memorial was ever going to be enough. It was.
Hello, possums. Yes, it's me, Dame Edna, and aren't I looking gorgeous?
The Sydney Opera House, the perfect setting for a man who called the stage home.
Laurel high, when the petals fly.
Lovable, lively, legendary, a larrikin lost.
Valet Barry Humphries.
After his death in April, his memorial service was filled with memories, tears and tributes from famous friends.
Celebrate with laughter, because that was what Barry was all about.
Even a royal message from King Charles delivered by Arts Minister Tony Burke.
Those who wondered whether Australia's housewife superstar might this time just go too far were always proved right.
From his family, Barry was just dad.
If you have a parent who's an artist, you sort of share that parent with their fans.
But no memorial would be complete without a performance from the Moonee Ponds housewife herself.
Why do I love Australia?
Guests today walking the pink carpet, a fitting tribute for one of his most famous alter egos. The size of the guest list matching that of a man who was truly larger than life. From entertainment alumni,
she'd be so annoyed that she couldn't be here throwing gladioli at us all.
Well, I think Dame Edna would be thrilled. Barry might be a little,
politicians.
He was entertaining, intelligent, innovative and all of those things.
And of course, his fans. One simply couldn't let Dame Edna miss this show.
Nobody as great as Edna. Nobody comes close.
And with the Opera House sales set to be lit up from 8:30 tonight, this was a farewell fit for a legend. Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
An explosive text from TV presenter Lisa Wilkinson has been revealed as she fights a defamation suit from Bruce Lerman. In it, she says Federal Minister Linda Reynolds was, quote, lying through her teeth in the aftermath of her interview with Brittany Higgins.
How high are the stakes? Returning to the witness box, Lisa Wilkinson taken back to Brittany Higgins' bruise photo. After saying she didn't think to check its metadata because she didn't know what that was, today's shown a 2015 tweet where she mentions metadata. You describe yourself as a serious investigative journalist. I describe myself as a journalist. It was most improbable that you did not know what metadata was. I disagree. Saying she didn't know photos had metadata. Wilkinson conceded some of Brittany Higgins' version of what then Minister Linda Reynolds had told her was likely affected by what she'd been through. We excluded things that we felt were possibly coloured by her trauma. Wilkinson messaged her producer Reynolds was, quote, lying through her teeth after telling Question Time she would not have met Higgins in her office if she'd known the details of the alleged incident. I believe Senator Reynolds misled Parliament in saying that. Questioned about the project not including part of Higgins' answer about the alleged rape's aftermath, the viewer wasn't told a security guard had asked, 1, how she was, and 2, she had replied she was fine. That's very poor journalism, isn't it, to conceal that? I'm disappointed to see that. It is a detail that escaped my attention. Wilkinson says Bruce Lerman was given 80 hours to respond before the program went to air, which she called fair and reasonable. She was even preparing questions in case Mr Lerman agreed to be interviewed. Though not named, Lerman argues knows he could be identified by details about where he had worked. I knew that the Channel 10 legal department were across this story, and I trusted that it was appropriate for those details to be in there. This afternoon, finishing her evidence.
Do you still trust the Channel 10 legal department?
As the trial continues. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
Fire crews in the Lower Hunter are in a race against time to put out flames from last night before another dangerous day tomorrow. Several homes and a business were lost when a change in the wind saw 3 fires combine and start heading towards towns.
From boom to bust.
Several commercial buildings are well alight.
As 3 fires became one.
Here we go.
The Lower Hunter alight last night when wild winds brought big flames. On the main street at Western,
just out of the blue, the wind changed.
And it turned on the town.
And then bang, it was in the whole joint.
The whole joint, this tyre shop, where the owner, Brian Teasdale, watched his small business burn.
Hit all the tea tree and everything out the back, and the flames were as high as the sky.
Embers flying right into roofs. Here, and here.
The gentleman in the car pulled up and said, "Mate, your house is on fire."
But none as lucky as here.
That's Dad's window, so they were banging on the back there.
His window was just metres from the bushfire.
Yeah,
and he couldn't hear it.
He's deaf and he couldn't hear anything.
The fires burned all night and have been smouldering all day.
Business have been lost and a number of properties been damaged and or lost.
This man lost the lot back in 2016. 7 years to the day, it's happened again. And as the cleanup continues, a total fire ban tomorrow as the Hunter holds its breath.
We're pre-positioning our assets where we think there might be some fires, and we're ready to go at any moment.
In Western, Lucy McLeod, 7 News.
Coal-fired power stations are closing faster than expected, prompting new fears of blackouts over the Christmas holidays. The latest warning comes from the market operator as households prepare for one of the hottest summers on record.
The pace of the energy transition is generating real heat.
Australia's coal-fired power stations are closing down.
Faster than expected, 10 have closed since 2012, 90% will have shut by 2035 and all by 2038, meaning more renewables will be needed sooner and transmission lines to connect them to the grid.
We're probably okay for summer so long as there's not a big problem.
A challenge to triple renewable energy production by 2030 and lay out 10,000 kilometres of transmission lines, costing $16 billion, but the Australian energy market operator says delivering consumers $17 billion in benefits.
That means that if we don't deliver those transmission projects, consumers will have to pay $17 billion more.
We're talking really big projects that take lots and lots of years, and we're already behind on them.
The government says we're not, claiming it will meet all its targets, including 82% of electricity from renewable sources by 2030.
The key is a faster, more orderly rollout of renewable energy, plus continuing to roll out the necessary storage and transmission.
The opposition sees it differently.
This is a dire warning for business and for households and for the Australian economy as a whole.
Insisting coal should be replaced by nuclear energy, not according to the market operator.
The lowest cost replacement for that energy is renewable energy.
Renewing an old debate. Mark Riley, 7 News.
It was cold-blooded and brazen. A father and son caught up in Sydney's gangland war, gunned down outside their home, metres from innocent families. Now, 2 years on, police have released security video showing exactly how the crime played out as they hunt the hitmen.
Leaping from a Lexus, lurking in a Guildford street, this is the moment a killer makes his move. His target, 18-year-old Salim Hamzi, had only just got into a work ute outside his Osgood Street home when a hooded gunman came sprinting up, slipping over, before recovering and unloading his weapon.
It is confronting footage. We don't normally show that. It demonstrates the atrocity of this act, a violent and barbaric act.
That ended the lives of Salim and his 64-year-old father Tufik, who'd been sitting in the passenger seat. The attacker then seen running back to the getaway car before it stops and more shots are fired. Urban warfare playing out metres from other drivers, even a mother and child next door. The Lexus, one of 3 getaway cars, later torched.
The people responsible can't hide away from their acts. And they're not going to be able to hide away from the law.
The attack happened in October 2021 at the height of Sydney's tit-for-tat shootings between the Hamzy and Alameddine crime groups. Salim had a history of gang activity, but
Tufik did not. He was an innocent man in this.
Others have been arrested, but the shooter and getaway driver in this video are still at large.
They still need to be identified, and that's why we're here today.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
The US Congress has passed legislation allowing the AUKUS deal to go ahead. At least 3 nuclear submarines will be sold to Australia from early next decade. The Defence Minister says the Virginia-class submarines are important to the nation's defence strategy with the United States and United Kingdom.
These are the most complex machines that humanity have ever built.
US President Joe Biden will now sign the bill, making it law. We all know the name Man Monis, the terrorist killed in the Lindt Cafe on this day 9 years ago. But even now, we can't reveal the name or the face of the hero police officer who took him out. He wants that changed so he can share his story to help others.
For a man known for showing no fear, this is one place he struggles to visit.
Is it hard to come back here?
Yeah, definitely. This is the second time I've ever come back here since the day.
The day was today, 9 years ago, the Lindt Cafe siege, when he would breach those doors and shoot down gunman Man Monis. He's known as Officer A.
I do still live definitely with the effects every day.
Where did it take you every time you have to face this anniversary each and every year?
To be honest, it's always a difficult time of year, especially that day.
Officer A cannot be identified, even now, 9 years after the siege, due to a coroner's court order that he wants overturned.
It is very difficult, and I'd like to put my name and my face to the story. It's very important to me.
New South Wales Police even tried to ban the book he wrote anonymously, Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. He won that legal battle, but not the one to return his name.
I do not understand the stance or why they are being that way.
He wants to use his story to help other first responders deal with the PTSD he now battles.
I'd like to be out in the public and speaking and helping as many people as I can.
On this 9th anniversary of the siege, Officer A is imploring authorities to give him his identity back before the time of the 10th anniversary. The 42-year-old believes he's being silenced for criticising tactics used at Lindt, saying hostages Tory Johnson and Katrina Dawson would have been saved if police had gone in earlier.
Hello, hello. How have you been?
Surviving hostage Louisa Hope backing his campaign.
They were heroes to us that night. They rescued us.
Saying he should be entitled to his name.
Something's got to be done there about that. We should be able to hear his story. It's so important.
He has a lot to share. PTSD has seen him lose his career, his marriage, home. But he fights on.
But I just keep fighting and refuse to give in to it.
He slams the police for not doing more to support and retain officers who are leaving in droves, just as terrorism looks set to explode again over the Israel-Hamas war.
Evidence is there that we're about to go through difficult times again. Why wouldn't you be supporting your police force during that time?
Moves to prevent another day like Lindt. Chris Reason, 7 News.
The state government's cashless gaming trial is to be dramatically expanded when it begins next year. Almost 4,500 poker machines in 28 clubs will now be included. Advocates hope it leads to universal cashless gaming. A panel of industry representatives and reformers will report back to the government in November next year. There have been tears and cheers at Garden Island as HMAS Brisbane sailed into her home port after 3 months at sea. The homecoming all the more special just 10 days out from Christmas.
There's only one way to overwhelm a warship. A a wave of love. Brave sailors embraced, the HMAS Brisbane arriving home in perfect time.
When are you due?
2 weeks, so just in time.
Oh, you made good time then.
I sure did. Definitely didn't plan it that way, but glad it happened.
From the wharf, it wasn't too hard to spot your person from the lineup and your crew in the crowd.
He won't miss us, that's for sure.
After 3 long months waiting, once they latched on, they didn't want to let go.
It's good to be home, yeah.
It was at times a dangerous deployment. One ship encountered the Chinese.
The Australian government represented our concerns back to the Chinese, and so that's been done at a political level.
HMAS Brisbane even evacuating an island in the path of Cyclone Jasper.
Home in time for Christmas, but for some families here the reunion will be short-lived. Just a couple of weeks before the next mission, and then they're off again.
Back for a little bit now, just time to have a rest and get back out there soon, I'm sure.
The horizon already beckoning, these hugs will have to last. Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Time to check the forecast now with Amber Laidler. Amber, warm again today.
Good evening, Angela. Yeah, temperatures right across the Sydney Basin remained a touch above the December average today. It reached 32 degrees at Penrith under clear skies, 30 degrees at Camden, 29 was the top at Bankstown. Warm but still much cooler than yesterday and recent weeks. In fact, the city has just sweltered through its hottest first fortnight of summer on record. Tonight, a warm, humid air mass and a weak trough are tracking slowly across the northeast, with warnings in place for heavy rainfall and damaging winds. Earlier storms just inland of Crescent Head delivered 70 millimetres of rain this afternoon, 44 millimetres of that in just 30 minutes, with Sydney's 7-day outlook also showing a few showers on the way. Your full forecast is coming up a bit later, Angela.
Okay, thank you, Amber. A family left homeless days out from Christmas, coming up how they were forced to flee for their lives when their unit went up in flames. A top IVF doctor sued for secretly impregnating a woman with his own sperm. Promising signs for a vaccine that treats one of the deadliest forms of cancer. Prince William recalls the moment Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's love story began. And later, Australia's best chefs put Christmas hams to the test. Thank you for watching 7 News. A driver accused of killing 5 people when he crashed into a beer garden in country Victoria is out on bail tonight. A magistrate released 66-year-old William Swale on a $250,000 surety and on the condition he wouldn't drive. Swale, who has diabetes, is accused of ignoring 9 alarms warning his blood glucose levels were low in the hour before the crash. He'll front court again in April. A first-of-its-kind vaccine is showing promise in treating patients with the most deadly form of skin cancer, melanoma. The mRNA vaccine, which is being developed by Moderna, has been found to prevent cancer returning for up to 3 years in clinical trials. The drug maker says it may consider applying to regulators for conditional approval. Just 10 days out from Christmas, and a family of 6 has lost everything when their southwest Sydney home went up in flames. The blaze so intense the roof caved in. The cause is being investigated.
It's tough to watch.
Is there anyone inside?
No. But that's all that residents could do.
Close to my house. That's my house next to it.
Fire destroying one home and damaging another at a cul-de-sac in Claymore around 2 this morning.
All of a sudden I heard someone next door. I thought they were fighting. And one person I heard, "What have you done?"
The family of 6 escaped with their 8 puppies. 2 children checked over by paramedics.
Firefighters took about an hour to get this fire under control.
Before they arrived, it was just Ricky with a hose.
Do my best to turn it off, but it's impossible. It's too big already.
Blocking him from his pets.
But I have my 4 dogs at the backyard.
Your 4 dogs?
Yeah.
3 ran away, but Curly was found this morning, shaken by the scare that's left a family homeless.
Big mess. It's a big, big mess.
The tenant has told 7 News that her and her 4 children have now lost everything. To make matters worse, the mother says she had just bought Christmas presents.
a cruel blow just days out. It's unfortunate to lose your home at any time of the year, but particularly before Christmas.
The cause is unclear. Bill Hogan, 7 News.
A founder of one of America's largest fertility clinics has been accused of secretly impregnating a patient. The child, now a grown woman, claims to have made the discovery through a DNA test.
Yearning to know more about her family history, Carolyn Bester went digging, uncovering a dark secret.
It feels like reality has shifted.
The 42-year-old claims a DNA test exposed prominent Boston fertility specialist Merill Berger as her father. He's one of the founders of Boston IVF and former professor at Harvard Medical School, also her mother's fertility doctor in 1980.
It's hard to imagine not trusting your own doctor.
The family's lawyer filed a civil lawsuit in Massachusetts federal court. Sarah DePoyen says she was promised an anonymous sperm donor who resembled her husband.
That is not what happened. Dr. Berger secretly inserted his own sperm into Sarah. It is unethical, unacceptable, and unlawful.
In a statement, Dr. Berger's lawyer said the allegations, which have changed repeatedly over 6 months, have no legal or factual merit and will be disproven in court, describing him as a pioneer in the fertility field with 50 years' experience.
The allegations have been 100% the same since the beginning.
A search for answers only raising more questions. In the United States, Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
The Prince of Wales has attended a passing out parade at the Royal Navy's Officer Training College in the UK. Prince William met the new naval cadets who've just completed their arduous training course, and in a speech to the graduates, he made mention of his late grandmother, saying the college holds a special place in his heart because it's where she first laid eyes on Prince Philip. His callous treatment of an Indigenous boy was caught on camera coming up. A New South Wales police officer learns his fate over this brutal assault. Anti-Semitism on the rise. Jewish Australians speak out. The moment a bull wanders onto the wrong side of the tracks. And ahead in sport, why Eddie Jones feels no guilt for his ugly exit from the Wallabies. A former police officer who was filmed violently arresting an Indigenous teenager has avoided jail. But Ryan Barlow is unlikely to ever serve on the force again after using a controversial leg sweep tactic, knocking the boy to the ground.
Oi! What the?
It was the controversial arrest
You don't have to hurt me. Oh, you don't have to That's how you feel.
that landed Constable Ryan Barlow before the courts and guilty of assault.
Have you apologised to the victim's family?
Today, he avoided jail time to serve an 18-month sentence in the community.
Are you pleased to be avoiding imprisonment?
The court heard as a result of the teenager being slammed to the ground, he suffered cuts, abrasions and pain to his jaw, shoulder and neck. His tooth was chipped and mouth bleeding. The magistrate saying the violence was considerable. From the victim's legal team, it sends a message violent and heavy-handed policing won't be tolerated. And from his mother,
we hope the result will send a message to deter other police officers.
Barlow maintains he was verbally threatened and it was an act of self-defence. It was a legitimate exercise he was carrying out that had a poor outcome.
Barlow must complete 125 hours of community service and report to a community corrections office within the next week. As for his future with the police force, it's unlikely he'll ever serve on Sydney streets again.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
Australia's Jewish community claims there's been a 700% spike in anti-Semitic attacks and protests around the country in the wake of the war in Gaza. It's calling for an education campaign to counter the rise, starting in our schools.
Verbal.
Get the Jews wiped out.
Visual. Violent. In all its forms, Jewish groups say anti-Semitic sentiment has never been more pronounced than it is today.
We're seeing vandalism of Jewish businesses, organised boycotts of Jewish businesses, harassment of Jewish school children.
Since October 7, figures collected by the Executive Council of Australian Juries show in October and November this year, there was 662 incidents, a staggering jump of more than 700%.
It represents one of the worst increases, or the greatest increase, the worst position in the world.
Holocaust survivor Ernie Friedlander joined the press conference this morning to call for a change in attitudes.
And people need to realise the damage and the division that it causes.
With calls for an education campaign starting in schools.
Could counter disinformation, could counter the myths, could counter the unknowns that people are just reacting to.
Tonight there'll be yet more protest action in the city. From 7 p.m, a pro-Palestinian march, medical professionals making their voices heard here at Sydney Hospital.
And health workers who are just doing their jobs, and they should never be killed in this way.
Evan Batten, 7 News.
2 new jets will join the state's ambulance fleet. The Pilatus jets will be equipped with the latest technology and medical equipment. The new planes can fly faster and further without being refuelled. Regional, rural and remote parts of the state will benefit most when they arrive in the middle of next year. The jets will join the existing fleet of 5 Beechcraft planes. Vladimir Putin says there'll be no peace in Ukraine until Moscow has achieved its aims. The Russian leader made the comments at a 4-hour media conference as the European Union strengthened its support behind Kyiv.
Vladimir Putin sat in the public eye, confident he'll outlast Ukraine and the West in the war he started and still plans to win.
Украина почти ничего уже не производит.
They get freebies all the time, but those freebies will end someday. Little by little, this is coming to an end.
As the Russian president held a 4-hour press conference with Western media, these were the desperate scenes playing out on the front line. The Ukrainians under heavy artillery fire, wounded and stuck in the mud, they tie a tourniquet in a foxhole. Despite the injection of Western firepower for a Ukrainian counter-offensive, Russia's holding its defensive position in Bakhmut.
Наши вооруженные силы.
Our armed forces are improving their position. Almost everyone's in an active posture along the front line.
With Ukraine funding now a bargaining chip in US politics, the EU is rallying to raise $50 billion in funding for the war.
If Ukraine doesn't have support from the EU and the US, well then Putin will win.
Beyond the cash was a critical vote at the high-stakes summit in Brussels, a commitment to hold talks about Ukraine's accession to the EU.
It might take many years for Ukraine to join the European Union.
A small step, but a historic political victory for Kyiv.
Europe must win, agreements must be honoured, and words must matter.
In London, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Families are really feeling the pinch this holiday season. New research from the Salvation Army finding 5 million Australians won't be able to afford a Christmas meal, with 30% of parents worried their children won't get presents.
1 in 10 Australians are saying they're going to have to reach out to a charity. People that are coming to the Salvos have never come to us before.
This Christmas, the Salvos will hand out more than 250,000 gifts and tens of thousands of food hampers. We've all heard of a bull in a china shop, but apparently a bull on train tracks can cause just as much chaos. There was major disruption on New Jersey's rail network when a young longhorn escaped, wandered into a station and began running up and down the tracks. Police officers were bullish in their response, trapping the creature inside a fenced lot before animal control arrived and carted him away. Out with the old and in with the new. Still to come, demountables ripped down in our northwest as the government tries to fix a classroom shortage. A pastry bandit who stole a truckload of donuts finally caught. Hundreds of entries, but which one made the cut? We reveal this year's best Christmas ham.
And soon in sport, live from Perth, Mitch Marsh falls just short of a hometown test to remember.
Police have nabbed a woman accused of stealing a Krispy Kreme truck packed with 10,000 donuts. The alleged pastry bandit hijacked the truck at a 7-Eleven in Carlingford more than 2 weeks ago. It was later found abandoned in Parramatta with its contents destroyed. The 28-year-old disqualified driver has been charged with a range of offences and will face court next week. The state's teacher shortage is an ongoing battle, but today it was the classroom shortage in sharp focus. The government promising to rip down demountables, taking up valuable space, replacing them with new state-of-the-art buildings.
On the last day of the school year, these students have more to look forward to than just the long, glorious summer break that lies ahead. Brand new classrooms are being built.
It's Merry Christmas for this community.
But being in a real building, because it's all been planned out, I had lots of excitement.
The 60 demountable classrooms at Carlingford West Public School were meant to be a temporary fix to booming enrolments, but they've become more like permanent eyesores.
We have lots of students here, almost 2,000 students.
To support the growing population in Sydney's northwest, the state government will replace 130 demountables at Castle Hill, Matthew Pearce and Carlingford West Public Schools, plus Cumberland High School.
We have been waiting, but we're quite a resilient community.
I know that we'll have a new library, so we'll get to do a lot of reading.
You can't tell now, but this was an oval, and once these portable classrooms go, that'll mean more space to kick balls, socialise and play. After this week's HSC results, schools got their NAPLAN report card today, with Sydney Grammar the top performing primary school, followed by Concord West and Anzac Park Public Schools. For secondary, James Roos Agricultural came in first, but the girls won bragging rights. Sydney, Hornsby and North Sydney girls all made the top 5. Amy Clements, 7 News.
The 7 Network has welcomed tax changes that will secure the future of home and away. Arts Minister Tony Burke announcing a 30% rebate for local drama productions during a rare look behind the scenes at Summer Bay.
Look, effectively Home and Away was being ripped off by running so many episodes. Never underestimate how much it matters to see your own story on screen.
The network says the money will fund more location shooting and a new internship program. Taking a look at finance now, the ASX 200 has closed up 65 points following a rally from the mining sector, with the falling US dollar lifting the price of commodities. Rio Tinto and BHP both palming more than 2%. Fortescue Metals shares hitting another record high. One Australian dollar is currently buying a touch under 67 US cents. St Mary's Cathedral has come alive with a dazzling Christmas light display bursting with festive joy. The 12 Days of Christmas theme took 8 months of planning using more than 30 million pixels. The light show runs every evening until the big day. The results are in. From taste to smell to texture, the country's best chefs deliver their verdict on which Christmas ham is the best of the bunch. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. First, Mel's here with Sport live from Perth. Mel, Australia are in control against Pakistan.
Hi Angie, yeah, you're right. A typically brutal Mitch Marsh innings capped off a great start to the first test here in Perth, but Pakistan have made a good start with the battle. The highlights from day 2 next, including David Warner's pointed jab at his critics, including Mitchell Johnson after starting his farewell summer in style. And Phil Kern says what we're all thinking after Eddie Jones' Japan defection.
As the day breaks,
the news breaks on Sunrise.
The unfolding fire emergency. Breaking news, the Middle East is at flashpoint.
Start with what's unfolding.
The winds have picked up massively.
Start with the team Australia trusts.
One of the biggest issues that's facing the country at the moment.
Start with Sunrise.
Welcome back to Optus Stadium, where Pakistan is fighting back on day 2 after local Mitch Marsh fell short of matching David Warner's 100. Responding to Australia's 487, the tourists have made a solid start. Warner explaining a cop that gesture aimed at critics.
In contrast to his loud leap, a silencing finger, Dave Warner's sure shamed directly at ex-teammate Mitchell Johnson and to shut up other media knockers.
You saw what it was.
a nice little quiet shush. Mitch is entitled to his opinion. He's a former player.
Finally out for 164, Watt Johnson said Warner did not deserve a New Year farewell test at the SCG now beckons. Despite the 37-year-old joking he may play on.
It's up to the selectors. If they want to keep continuing to pick me, then I ain't leaving.
Leaving nothing on day 2.
Oh, and starting to walk down the wicket to Ashraf now as well.
Mitch Marsh.
Here we go. It's been called, and Marsh is seeing it big out there at the moment.
What is that? Plastered.
Co-stars came and went. Alex Carey 34, Mitchell Stark 12, Marsh the same fate on 90.
Oh, well, there you go.
Pat Cummins 9, Australia all out for 487, 6 wickets on debut for Amir Jamal. Marsh composed some chin music.
Now that is a good bouncer.
Imam Al-Haq, nephew of Inzamam Al-Haq, emerging from survival mode to counter-attack. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Rugby legend Phil Kearns has labelled Eddie Jones a liar, but believes his Wallabies walkout is a blessing. Officially unveiled as Japan's new coach, Jones claims he's still haunted by his ugly defection from Australia, but denies he hoodwinked fans.
Eddie Jones jumping ship to coach Japan, ratting out on Australia.
I apologise to Australian fans. Yeah, mate, I gave everything I could for that short period of time and it wasn't good enough. But I don't feel any guilt at all about this process.
Plenty think he's guilty.
Deception, lying, duplicity. He's deceived the Australian rugby public through and through. Right now is the time that we need to tough it out, not leave and go to another country.
Disappointed at Jones's defection after the World Cup debacle, Phil Kearns believes it will be a blessing.
If that's going to be the attitude that you take into coaching the Wallabies and the history of the Wallabies, then you don't want that ethos brought into our team.
I feel terrible about the results at Australia, because I wanted to go back and change Australia.
Jones still denies he interviewed with Japan before the World Cup, claiming they only spoke once last week.
I was asked by the recruitment agency to share my experiences with them on Japan, and some people might have construed that as an interview.
Rugby Australia urged to take longer than that to find his replacement.
This decision is a massive one for Australian rugby, which they need to get right.
James Manton, 7 News.
Tom Trbojevic has no plans to switch from fullback to the centres to keep him fit on the field. The Manly superstar is back to full contact training and will be ready to go for round 1 just in time for the NRL's Las Vegas experiment.
If Tom Trbojevic never has to make another comeback from injury, it will still be too soon.
It was more hard dealing with the injury than coming back. It's obviously Peck's about a 3-month injury, so I've had plenty of time for that to recover. So, in a really good mental space now.
The unlucky Sea Eagles star feels back to full fitness after that torn pec in Origin, which ended his season, rejecting suggestions a move to the centres would reduce his risk of injury.
I think I hurt myself in the centres, so. Yeah, I don't know about that one, but look, people are entitled to their opinions. They can say what they want.
A tough pre-season in the nation's capital has Josh Papali'i questioning his future in the game.
I reckon this one could potentially make me retire again.
Jokes aside, the prop is feeling fresh following surgery on a bicep injury, so much so that he's considering taking up the option in his contract for 2025.
There's discussions with my management team and the club at the moment.
And the Bulldogs are spreading Christmas cheer in between tough pre-season training, the playing group taking time out to pack hampers and presents with the Kids with Cancer Foundation to be delivered to children in hospital. Jaleesa Rapps, 7 News.
After finishing runner-up in the Ballon d'Or, Sam Kerr was once again snubbed for football's top prizes. The Matilda skipper was not included in the final 3 shortlist for FIFA's Best Women's Player Award. World Cup winners Aita Bonmati and Jenny Hermoso were named. Kerr's World Cup semi-final super strike also didn't make the cut for the goal of the year. Can you believe that? were down a record 42-0 at halftime to the Las Vegas Raiders. The calls came thick and fast for the Los Angeles Chargers to axe coach Brandon Stanley in the NFL.
They should fire him first. They should make history. They should fire him at halftime. They should just, hey, we got an Uber X carpool outside, and we'll send you on your way.
The Chargers improved slightly after the break, losing 63-21. And it's pretty windy up here and very hot down there on the ground. But the Pakistan, they're providing plenty of resistance. None for 50 at the moment, doing well.
Very good to hear. Okay, thanks so much, Mel. This year's Christmas hams have been put to the test by some of Australia's most prominent chefs. In the end, it was a Melbourne butchery that came out on top, claiming gold with quality meat that's also budget-friendly.
Christmas has come early for staff at Tibaldi Small Goods. Its festive ham a winner at this year's Australian Meat Industry's Charcuterie Excellence Awards.
So we do know that our hams are the best. They taste delicious. They're actually all made from 100% Australian pork.
Tibaldi won gold for its ham both on and off the bone. Its Christmas hams retailing for just $8.50 a kilo.
Half ham on the bone, that's usually about your $50 mark.
Judges included celebrity chefs Colin Fassonage and Adrian Richardson, who sampled hundreds of entries, assessing aroma and taste, texture, smokiness and flavour.
Standards in Australia are getting higher every year.
The Christmas ham category champion is a small butcher from Cairns in far north Queensland who beat all the big guys.
Well, this recipe is really unique and it's been in the family for over 40 years.
Despite tough economic times, our ham-loving nation spends $100 million a year on the festive staples. Tibaldi winning silver for its boneless leg ham, which small families can enjoy for $12 a pack.
The 90-year-old company is one of the big four ham producers in the country, this year making a record 200 tonnes of ham in time for Christmas.
That big ham that sits in the middle with the cloves in it, the glaze on the outside, that's what I'm waiting for.
The CSIRO says Christmas ham can last up to 2 weeks in the fridge. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Amber is back now with the forecast. Amber, how's it looking tomorrow?
Nice and sunny across Sydney tomorrow, Angela, though we do have another burst of heat on the way. Your detailed outlook is next.
Tonight's 7 News headlines. Barry Humphreys has been given a fitting send-off at a star-studded memorial service in Sydney. Fire crews are racing against time to put out flames in the Lower Hunter ahead of another dangerous day tomorrow. The man who shot and killed the gunman involved in the Linz siege is fighting for his name to be made public. And there have been emotional reunions as HMAS Brisbane sailed into port just in time for Christmas. Now, here's Amber with Sydney's weather. Amber.
Thank you, Angela. Well, the threat of storms further north has passed for now, though the northeast is still being impacted by some showers, while Sydney has enjoyed mostly settled conditions throughout the day. It reached 28 degrees in the city this afternoon. Right now it is 24 in moderate nor'easterly winds and mostly clear skies. Today technically marks the start of the country's sunniest fortnight of 2023 as we approach the summer solstice, though the forecast is showing a few showers on the way for Sydney next week. The satellite image shows a trough over western New South Wales, which is drawing hot and humid heat into the state. It is tracking northeast this evening, which should bring a southerly change along southern and central parts of the coast. Another is forecast later in the weekend thanks to a passing cold front, while ex-tropical cyclone Jasper continues to produce heavy rainfall across North Queensland tonight and throughout the weekend. Around the country tomorrow, though, more storms are forecast for Brisbane, tops of 32 degrees, a mostly sunny 27 expected tomorrow in Canberra, partly cloudy and 21 in both Melbourne and Adelaide tomorrow. Showers easing in Hobart, tops of 18, mostly sunny and 35 over in Perth, 33 with a possible storm tomorrow in Darwin. Statewide tomorrow, aside from those showers along the far north coast, clear skies are pretty much forecast elsewhere with gusty winds in parts. A fire weather warning has been issued for the state's northwest and northern slopes, the central ranges, also the Greater Hunter and Greater Sydney, with temperatures set to soar across the metro region tomorrow, reaching 38 degrees at Richmond tomorrow, 37 at Penrith, at Parramatta, also down on the coast at Cronulla, 35 degrees is the top tomorrow at Manly and also at Hornsby. on the water tomorrow. Northerly winds should turn northwesterly in the morning before shifting east to southeasterly during the middle of the day, those winds reaching up to 20 knots during the late evening. But back in the city tomorrow, we've got plenty of sunshine on the way for the start of your weekend as daytime temperatures rise again, reaching 35 degrees in the CBD on the way to 37 degrees across the western suburbs. A bit cooler from Sunday though. It should remain dry, just the chance of a shower or two across the outer western suburbs late in the day. The wet weather is forecast to return from late Tuesday along with another burst of heat reaching 35 to 39, but looking nice and sunny and settled across Sydney tomorrow, Angela.
Looks good. Thank you, Amber. That is 7 News for this Friday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening, and Weekend Sunrise starts at 7 tomorrow. I'm Angela Cox from all of the team. Thanks so much for your company. Have a great night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.